I have a question for you. Imagine you're given a scenario where you can choose either 10 lakh rupees in the present day or you can get 11 lakh rupees but a year from now. Which out of the two choices would you go for? Intuitively, it may feel, at the onset at least, that choosing 11 lakh rupees is probably a better idea. You're getting a lakh rupees more, right? And you're okay waiting for a year. But what if now I tell you, you can use that 10 lakh rupees, hypothetically, and invest in silver and gold. And imagine the situation was given to you a year ago. Suddenly you would have made 20 lakhs by the end of the year. The heart of this problem is the fact that the value of money doesn't stay consistent with time. That is what we call in finance the time value of money. It, according to me at least, is the most fundamental concept in all of finance. This is the concept that explains why companies are valued at what they are valued, also explains why inflation occurs, also explains to some extent how central banks operate, explains how investors move trillions of dollars every single day, explains why our investment bankers paid so much money and what do they really do in their job. Throughout this video, I want to kind of explore that train of thought of the time value of money, how it originated, what it really means. And by the end of it, hopefully you'd be able to appreciate how do real life finance jobs like the ones of investment bankers apply this concept to value companies and to value transactions such as mergers and acquisitions. In the meantime, we can also see the cricket match. Look at that. Coming back, this wasn't always the case, by the way. In the medieval times, especially in Europe, if you gave money to someone else, you cannot charge interest. It was considered a sin. It was morally wrong, at least in all the Abrahamic religions, which is to say Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. This wasn't the case in the medieval Europe until the 16th century, where in the school of Salamanca in Spain, that's where everything changed. They were the thought leaders, the cool kids back in the good old days, right? They were the ones who came up with a lot of other things, especially on the philosophy side about the rights of man, etc. But we will not talk about it. It's important to note that this place, the School of Salamanca, was the place where the idea or the concept of interest first originated. The idea behind that was twofold. One is on the part of the lender, you are taking some sort of a risk when you're giving your money to the person who's borrowing it from you. And second, there is also this idea of opportunity cost. You can use that same money to do something on your own, and that can generate money for you. So when that person who has borrowed money from you returns it back, he or she must give you some premium on top of the money that they've bought, called as interest. Now, interest has become such an integral part of our lives that we don't even think about the fact that it's just a few centuries old as a concept. Great. So 16th century, interest becomes a normal thing. In the modern world, it's really not a big deal. We've lived our life with interest, so it doesn't surprise us at all. We also know that compound interest is so much more powerful than simple interest. Albert Einstein famously said that one who understands compound interest is understanding the eighth wonder of the world. And I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but it's important to spend like 30 seconds to kind of emphasize how big of a difference it can make. If you look at this graph, which is the GDP growth percentage rate between India and China from the year 1960 to 2022, you will see that there isn't a big delta. Of course, China was growing faster than India, but if you look at the median GDP growth, China's median growth rate was around 11.3%, whereas India's was around 7.8%. That's hardly a 3.5% delta. But now, if you look at this graph, which is the GDP in nominal terms between India and China, see how big a difference there is between the nominal GDPs of the two countries. In the year 2022, China's GDP in nominal terms was 19.9 trillion US dollars and India's was only 3.5 trillion US dollars. That's insane. This is a clear example of how compounding over years, over decades, can have such a tangible difference. Speaking about careers in finance and corporate, one great idea for someone like you who might be interested in building a career is to go for a CFA exam. CFA exam or a CFA certification is the only globally renowned certification. It is applicable in more than 165 countries. There are 3 levels to this examination, and typically it has a pass percentage of around only 40%. But that's where the sponsor of this video, Zell Education, comes into picture. Zell have an absolutely amazing bunch of tutors that will help you crack these concepts even better, help them understand deeply and crack this examination. In the past, they have placed over 10,000 students. Their pass percentage for the CFA exam is upwards of 80%, close to 80-85%. And I can confidently say that there is no other partner that will help you prepare better for this examination than Zell. They have also seen the students who have prepared with them get starting salary packages of close to 18 lakhs and more. So yeah, if you are someone who's interested in upskilling your finance knowledge and preparing for CFA, I would definitely highly recommend checking out Zell Education. They also have a postgraduate diploma in international accounting and finance that they're doing with association with IIM Mumbai. You can go check that out as well, see if that interests you. I will leave the link to all the brochures in the comment section. Now let's get back to the video. Let's talk a little bit about maths now. Simple maths, not anything complicated. So if you were to use compounding as the principle to calculate future value, the future value would then be given as FV equal to C into 1 plus R to the power T. What is C? C is the sum of cash which you're compounding. R is the rate at which you're compounding at, and T is the number of time periods, right? So this is how you would calculate the future value. But more importantly, you want to calculate the present value, which is to say, what would a certain amount of money in the future be valued at currently? It's a simple rearrangement of the formula. The present value would then be given as C divided by 1 plus R to the power T, right? Where C is the sum of the cash in the future. So going back to our earlier example, the example that we started this video with, 11 lakhs. If I were to value 11 lakh rupees in the present day, assuming, let's say, I'm an investor who has a rate of return of around 6%, my present value of that 11 lakh rupees will be 11 lakh divided by 1 plus 0.06 to the power 1, because it's just 1 year, which will come something around, I think, 10.3 lakhs, if I'm not wrong. I'm doing this mentally, so don't quote me on that. Doesn't matter. Point is that the same 11 lakhs can mean different things for different people in the present, depending upon how much the rate of interest or the discount rate that they want to target. Great. All of this is amazing, but what does it even mean for a company, right? How does it translate to businesses and investment bankers using this concept? So if I'm an investment banker, what will I be doing? I will be valuing a certain mergers and acquisition transaction, right? There's a potential buyer who's looking for acquiring another company. My job is to give a fair value to that company. How do I do that? I look at that company's future cash flows. I will have a very complicated Excel running with hundreds of sheets maybe, and the sheets are kind of interconnected with macros and whatnot. But at the heart of it, there are other ways to value a company also. You look at multiples from the market, etc., etc. But the most fundamental and the most agreed upon way is discounted cash flow method, by the way, which is what we're discussing. So then I would then be looking at, okay, what are the future cash flows that I can generate? If it's some company in the solar space, right? They make solar panels, etc. I can make certain assumptions on how much capacity will they be increasing every year and how much would that translate into in revenue, etc. All of that. So you will have a certain cash flow that will occur in all of the years. And then, so for business, we have something called the weighted average cost of capital, or WACC, which is again just another name for the R, which is the hurdle rate, the rate by which you discount the future cash flows. What does that mean? Think about it very first principles. How can a business raise money? There are only two ways for a business to raise money. One is by getting debt from a bank, in which case, if you get debt from a bank, the interest rate that the bank charges you becomes your cost of debt. And the second way for a business to raise money is by issuing equity, which is to say, let people buy equity, and then you use that money to run the business. Instead of investing in your equity, how much return can they expect by investing in something else? That's what we called the cost of equity. Now, how is the cost of equity calculated? There is another model called the capital asset pricing model, CAPM. You will notice finance people love jargon. It just sounds so fancy. Capital asset pricing model. It's nothing. It's essentially a very simple model that talks about how you can kind of fit all the stocks in a market by a linear fit. So essentially, imagine a straight line equation, y equal to mx plus c, something very similar. You have the performance of all the stocks in relation to the market performance. Market performance is essentially the same as the index performing a certain way. So you have the cost of equity being given by the formula RE equal to RF plus beta times RM minus R. F, which is to say the risk-free rate of return, plus beta times the risk premium. If you don't understand this, don't worry, we're already digressing. I don't know why I'm explaining the capital asset pricing model, but I feel like while we're developing this first principles, might as well, right? Essentially, you have certain betas for different stock profiles, and the way you calculate them is by looking at historical data. All of this is already digression. What I want to tell you is that there exists a way for people to calculate the cost of equity. You have the cost of debt, which is the interest rate that the bank charges. You have the cost of equity through the capital asset pricing model. You use these two rates to come up with a final rate, and that rate is the rate that you use to discount future cash flows. Don't worry if you don't understand anything that I'm saying. It really does not matter. I don't want to get into the technicalities, but at the same time, I also don't want to shy away from giving you certain flavor of how things actually unfold. But the heart of this idea is that you come up with a rate. You come up with a rate that everyone can agree on is mathematically a sound rate by which you discount the future cash flows. And then once you discount this future, and then you take a weighted average, which is to say how if you have 40% debt and if you raise 60% equity, you will take them the rates in certain proportion and you will use an equivalent rate. Now this model can look very, very complex, which is why investment bankers earn a lot of money, because you can have different rates for different time intervals, you can have different cash flows and all of that. Okay, if there's only one thing you take away from this video, hopefully you'll take more, but if there's only one thing, I want you to know that even at the highest level, the way billion-dollar companies and trillions of dollars are moving in various economies is by people making net present value or NPV calculations, where they discount future cash flows by a certain rate, and then that's all there is really to it. It gets more and more complicated if you get into the nuances of how that rate is calculated, how the future cash flow is calculated, but that's at the heart of it. I hope that gave you some perspective. I'll see you in the next one.